Welcome to our American Stories Travel webinar today. We're here to talk about the cherry blossom season in Washington, D.C. and how you can sell this once-a-year luxury experience. And here to introduce the topic is Audra Fuest. She is the Business Development Manager at American Stories Travel. Audra, over to you.
Thank you, Lee. Hello, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's training. As Lee mentioned, I'm Audra Fuest, Business Development Manager at American Stories Travel. Since it is chilly in many parts of the country right now, it's actually the perfect time to start planning spring travel for your clients. So before we jump into the agenda that we have today, I just wanted to share a quick refresher for anyone who's new to us, or if it's been a while. American Stories Travel is a US-based destination management company and tour operator with over 30 years of experience. We specialize currently in 6 destinations: New York City, Washington, D.C., which we'll talk about today, Boston, Philadelphia, Charleston, and Savannah. And thanks to our trusted network of local experts and partners, we really go beyond the standard tours and itineraries. We create authentic, personalized experiences that turn into lasting memories and great American stories your clients will be excited to share. So what are we covering today? First, we'll talk about why cherry blossom season is one of DC's most valuable travel windows, along with some basics about traveling during that time. Then we'll walk through some of our signature DC cherry blossom itineraries and enhancements you can easily offer for your clients. After that, I'll share how simple it is to partner with us and how that process works from proposal to post-travel, and then we'll have time at the end for that Q&A. So with that, I'll turn it over to George, our amazing Director of Sales and Operations.
Yeah, hi, it's nice to meet you. My name is George Sillcock. I am Director of Sales and Operations. I have been with American Stories Travel since August last year, so some of you I may have met, some of you I am going to have the pleasure of working with this year, and I'm very excited. To echo Lee and Audra, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We know how busy it is this time of year, so stopping, having a coffee with us and learning a little bit about Washington, D.C. and cherry blossom season is very much appreciated, and hopefully a little bit of a break for you guys as well. So let's jump in a little bit on why cherry blossom season matters. So everyone has heard of cherry blossom season in Japan. You know, I'm up in Toronto, we talk about it in High Park. I don't know that we talk about it enough in Washington, D.C. And I think it's a really lovely thing to really focus on for your clients because it is domestic travel. It means it can be done with a fairly short turnaround time, a couple of nights to go and experience it. And it's a short season and it's a short distance for most of our travelers to get to. So thinking about the season, Lee just asked us the question, you know, when is cherry blossom going to be this year? And it's a little bit hard to tell. I'm sure a lot of you have just had some of the snow that's come through. Typically, we would say that the season really is running from the end of March to the middle of April. The actual festival does run from the 20th of March to the 12th of April. We tend to find out about 10 days prior to actual blossom when the dates are most likely going to be. But in saying that, you know, there are the spring blossoms, there are the cherry blossoms. Spring is happening all around the city, so it really is a beautiful natural time of the year to travel. You know, you have those iconic views, you have the beautiful cherry blossoms. It's just a really different way of viewing DC, but you can also combine it with, you know, the more tried and true and traditional things that you do in Washington, DC. I think one of the things that I love about it is that it really is a once a year experience. It's one of those things that I like to, you know, sit around the dining room table and talk about that experience that you really only can do in March in DC. And, you know, it's something that you can't access all the way throughout the year. So that's a really nice selling point that if you do have travelers that are looking to go to DC in that springtime, maybe encouraging them to go during the end of March and early April, it kind of gives them that one-off, really special, unique access to something that they may not see if they travel at other times during the year. Now, what I will say is, you know, it's the beginning of February. Early planning is really important. So, you know, we are getting to the point where we probably want to get these hotels locked in. We want to get our fantastic guides locked in. You know, we want to think about the museums that we might want to access as well and talk about some of the pacing. So now really is the time to start planning and getting in touch with our team. So what is it really like traveling during cherry blossom season in DC? It's going to be busy. And you know what? It's one of the things that is one of the reasons that you book with someone like American Stories Travel. We know about the crowds. We know how to time it. We work with locals who are used to the city. They understand what this time of the year looks like every year, where people are going to be in the morning, you know, what time you want to get up. You want to get up first thing in the morning if you can, to get out at 9 a.m. on the National Mall before everyone else does, when it's beautiful and calm and, you know, less people around. We want to make sure that we are matching you with guides and drivers who are used to getting around the city. You know, it's DC, it is, you know, the seat of our government. There's often closures. We want people who know how to navigate that alongside the additional crowds that come in with cherry blossom season. What I will say though is that, you know, anything worth seeing is often going to be a little bit busy. And it's one of those things that someone will always say to me, oh, you know, don't do the touristy things. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think do the touristy things well, do them in a different way, and work out a partner that you can work with that can make that experience seamless, easy, fun, and, you know, as easy as possible for you as agents as well. And hopefully partnering with us will give you and your travelers that experience. Now, one of the things I will say, as an Australian, as you can probably hear in my accent, is it is a walking city. You know, we do drive from place to place. However, it is really important to make sure that your travelers are prepared for the time of the year. So, you know, I'm sitting here at the moment, I can see beautiful blue skies, but I know as soon as I walk outside that I can see in my breath it's a little bit cold. By March, April, it will be starting to warm up. But with that does come cooler evenings, cooler mornings, the occasional bit of rain. So, you know, really making sure that you're preparing your travelers with layers, good walking shoes, and just making sure that they're really aware and prepared for what they're going to be seeing. Cherry blossoms is an outdoor experience. You want to make sure that they're comfortable being outdoors, and that really does mean preparing them to be dressed properly. Now, when we think about skipping the tourist chaos, I touched on this a little bit. There's a couple of different ways that we can do that. You know, the most well-known areas is obviously the tidal basin and the National Mall. They're the must-sees. So we make sure that we do them early in the morning, later in the evening, but we can also do other things that are a little bit smarter. So, you know, we can take the trolley car. We can also do a boat ride on the tidal basin, which is a really nice perspective and also gives a little bit more of a sense of calm away from, you know, people taking photos under the trees and things like that. More separated, a little bit more exclusive. But then there's also other areas in the city that people don't know as well. So, you know, we can head out to Kenwood in Maryland, the East Pontomac Park, the US National, I always pronounce this word wrong, Arboretum. There are just different areas that we can take your travelers to that can skip some of that sort of chaos and crowding. But again, keeping in mind that, you know, once in a lifetime experience, you know, there are going to be crowds. What I will say is private guides, they really do change everything. It means there's flexibility on the ground. If our guide recognizes that, hey, maybe this isn't the time, checking out the crowd to go in and do this, we can pivot really quickly, go do something else, and then come back when we think it's going to be a little bit quieter. It also means that, you know, our private guides are giving local experiences. So it's not just talking about monuments. It's not just talking about cherry blossoms. It's stopping alongside the road to grab a great cup of coffee or a croissant or, you know, pastry whilst you're waiting out those crowds. So those private guides really do make a difference when you're visiting somewhere that is busy, especially when it's going to be busy because it is an annual once a year thing. So who are the right people to travel to Washington for cherry blossom season? Honestly, it's a bit of a catch-all, and I know that's a bit of a cop-out as well. You know, I think we see a lot of couples, you know, you see a lot of proposals. It's very romantic, it's beautiful. Lots of couples taking their engagement photos, lots of proposals, or even couples just celebrating anniversaries. You know, one of the great things about DC is, you know, the food scene is amazing. We can combine that romantic sort of aspect across their entire stay. You pick the right hotel, you go and do some beautiful photos of cherry blossom, and then you pick the right restaurant, and it all ties into a really nice romantic package where DC may not be the first place that you think of from a romantic standpoint. Of course, we have our culture and history lovers. DC is just steeped in all of the Smithsonian museums, a lot of history, Mount Vernon, heading out to Arlington, there's a lot of military history. Again, it is that nice balance of seeing something that is natural and beautiful, and also combining those really important cultural and historical aspects that makes DC what DC is. Families with older kids, for the same reason, it's such a good city to travel with kids. When you're looking at all of these iconic national monuments, they are things that they have learned about in school. There are so many Smithsonian museums that really does cater to so many different interests, and they are things that we can work with you and your traveller to really start to pull out the things that are going to be interesting, to make sure that we are catering to your traveller's needs and finding that niche. Yes, you're traveling for cherry blossom, but it's not the only reason that you're going. You want to find some other interests to really wrap that whole trip up together. I think also repeat travelers, having been to DC myself a couple of times, and I must admit it is one of my favorite cities to travel to. I think that doing the Monuments by Night is possibly one of the best tours that I've ever done, full stop, in my 25 years career of being in luxury travel. But going during cherry blossom, it gives a different perspective of the city. So you're traveling at a different pace, you're seeing things with a different eye, it's very pretty and a little bit softer. And so repeat travelers also are going to be able to get quite a lot out of traveling during spring. And I did touch on this a little bit earlier. DC is fast becoming one of the hotspots for food. There are amazing restaurants that are popping up, some fantastic chefs. Off the top of my head, I know that we have an absolutely phenomenal Georgetown foodie tour. There really is something for everyone when it comes to food-based tours. Our team is a little bit more knowledgeable than I am on the actual specifics on it, but definitely if you have clients who are interested in food, we can tie that into the cherry blossom, pick great restaurants, pick great hotels, and then also integrate into some of those walking tours. So, what does 5 days cherry blossom look like from an itinerary standpoint? So, of course, you're traveling with American Stories. We organize everything from your airport transfers to your departure transfers and everything in between. We can, of course, support in booking your hotels and making some suggestions. There's some amazing, iconic hotels in Washington. We're happy to work with you to book them, or if you have a preferred platform that you'd like to book them on for various reasons, we're happy to do that as well. I think one of the things I really like about this particular tour is the way that it's been put together is giving a different perspective of mode of transport getting around. So, for example, this particular tour on day 1 in the morning will take you out on a bike tour down the National Mall or some of the quieter trails if maybe you don't have some cyclists who are as confident. And then in the afternoon, gets you out on a sports boat cruise. Again, that different perspective, a little bit off the beaten path, but still making sure that you're experiencing things that we don't want to miss. We just like that idea that, cherry blossom outside nature, that we get you outside, that we get you actually, out doing things, seeing things on the ground. Now, of course, if you have any travelers who maybe have mobility concerns or for whatever reason, cycling's just not their thing, I might be one of those people, we can certainly look at how we adjust. So whether we do walking tours, whether we maybe do vehicles, we can certainly accommodate that if you share those needs with us. Day 2, we do a little bit more off the beaten path. We head down to the Basilica of the National Shrine. We're really looking for some of those little neighborhoods that maybe the bigger buses aren't able to get into, that pocket in a little boutique neighborhood that has cherry blossoms or spring blossoms. We want to try and get into those areas. And that's where we really lean on our partners and our guides to be able to sort of know what's happening in the week, to be able to get our customers, travelers out to those areas that maybe they wouldn't know to look otherwise. Day 3, we do a pedicab tour, which is another really cool experience. Again, just a different perspective And then in the afternoon, I mentioned the Georgetown guided food tasting tour. I think this is really cool. It's a beautiful part of DC. You know, very curated stops. We have a way to work with your travelers' likes and dislikes, whether they're sweet leaning or savory leaning. We can work with you to make sure that they're getting what they're going to enjoy. So as you can see, you know, we are really focusing on the cherry blossoms in this itinerary, but trying to bring your travelers to it from a different perspective each day so that it doesn't feel repetitive, but also so they're seeing the rest of the city as well. So additional itineraries that pair well. If you're not as familiar with American Stories Travel, I think one of the things that I'd like you to walk away today is knowing that all of our itineraries, the ones that you can see online, the ones that we do highlight in our newsletter, they are designed so that we can pull them apart and really sort of put those blocks back together in a way that's going to make your traveler's trip the best it can possibly be. And so, you know, we have a couple of other itineraries that we find are really well focused. So obviously your iconic Essentials DC, this is your first time traveler. They've never been to DC before. What are they going to see? You know, we want to make sure that they are seeing all of the monuments, going past the White House, you know, Mount Vernon or Arlington, those types of things might be on their list. DC history, as I said, you know, the seat of our government, what sort of history are they interested in? We have a lot of our travelers, and I would love to know the percentage on this. I would say that about 60% of our travelers do a capital city tour, you know, getting in and actually learning about the building, learning about the government, and that type of thing. So there's certainly things that we can integrate from a history perspective. And then again, culinary, you know, we have some great walking tours. I'm sure that we are able to do cooking classes, although I can't remember what that one is off the top of my head. I'll need to double check that. But essentially just to highlight that we can pull apart certain things and put them back together in a way that's going to suit your traveler. So just to add to that a little bit, if you do have travelers who have a very, very specific niche interest, do let us know, because we have our product that our product team has worked really hard to curate, to make sure that we have quality checked, that we have the right people. But because of those amazing partnerships that we have built, it does sometimes mean that we are able to maybe go to our partners and build out something really niche. So my suggestion for you is always come to our team with ideas. We'll either say, yes, that's great, we can do that. Maybe we can do that, let's find out. Or no, that's not something that we can do, but here's why, and here's how you might be able to have a similar experience doing something a little bit different. So what I'd like you to take away is that there's a lot of flexibility in how we put together our tours, and we really want to help you as advisors design the right trip for your travelers. So whether you're extending, whether you're shortening, whether you're doing multi-city, you know, we are seeing more people combining different cities across all of our portfolios to extend their trips a little bit. Some people are choosing not to travel internationally this year, so they are doing longer domestic travel. So whilst we are talking about cherry blossom in particular, this does apply to all our destinations throughout the year. Perfect. So just some of these high value enhancements to elevate the experience. I really just think that we don't expect our advisors to be super knowledgeable on what people can see. So we try and give that range of product, and we try and have our product team do such a good job of figuring out what types of things are going to work for what types of travelers. So when we do design our travelers, our trips, we do think about families that are traveling together, people who might be traveling for anniversaries or special occasions, people who might just happen to be in town because one of the couple is there for work and they want to add on some leisure time on top of that. We want to design for people who enjoy being outside, people who don't enjoy being outside, people who want to spend the whole day wandering around museums, or people who might want to have a lie-in and then do a bike tour in the afternoon. So we really do have a huge range of product. Here are just a couple that I've mentioned already that, you know, highlight that sort of range of different things that we can do. But again, like I said, you know, if throughout the consulting process with both your travelers and with my team, If there's something that you're not seeing that you really want to see, let us know and we'll see if we can make that magic happen. You know, our whole idea is making sure that we are getting people out, and Washington DC is really one of those places where you can build a really amazing story that will develop an amazing trip. So positioning DC as effortless for clients. I mentioned this at the top of the call, especially traveling during cherry blossom. It is going to be crowded. It is somewhat unavoidable. It really is about having a partner, whether it is a transport partner or a guide. It's having our expertise, knowing how to design our itineraries in a way that's going to make sense so that we can avoid the crowds as much as possible. Smooth pacing, I think one of the things that I have learned in my career is pacing looks different for everyone. And so as we consult with you and you consult with your travelers, we can talk about whether people are wanting to do more of that drive-by, see the sites, tick them off the list, or whether they're wanting to maybe do fewer sites throughout the day, a slower pace, spending more time learning more about the areas. We always do private transportation. It means there's less stress. It means there's consistency in vehicles. We make sure that they're up to our standard, obviously all licensed drivers and licensed cars and all those types of things, but it does build that trust. And then for us, for you guys, I think the main benefit is that we handle all of the logistics. So, you know, if you think about any trip that you book with us, you might be booking 15, 16, 17 different services. You're not having to manage them. We are making sure they're reconfirmed. We are making sure that we have passes and tickets, that we are working out the logistics, working with our guides, making sure that our guides understand the group dynamic of the people who are traveling. If there's any special occasions, we're doing all of that reconfirming on the back end for you. So for you guys, all you really need to do is once we get to the point, you present your itinerary, you share the vouchers, and you tell your travelers to have an amazing trip. We want this to be as easy for you as it is for your travelers on the ground. And then just a little bit about how we work, and I know Audra might touch on this a little bit as well. We have recently had feedback from the community, which we really appreciate. In the past, we used to have a system where you would work with your experienced designer. Then once you got to the point of booking, you would then work with an operations specialist. We have heard that that was maybe not the best experience for a travel advisor, because there were often things that maybe you really enjoyed working with that first person, you built the rapport, you got that shorthand, you know, you had all those conversations, then to somewhat start the process again. So going forward, you will now work with one dedicated person from start to end. So from that initial inquiry that you send us right up until any feedback that we get post-trip, it'll always be working with the same person, with the exception of we want people to take time off. So if they are out of the office, you'll have a backup, whether it's myself or another member of our fantastic team. So then they will work with our operations team and our partners to make sure all of the under the water rippling things that you don't need to see happen. So door-to-door service and trip support. So as soon as your traveler arrives in, in country, in city, we are there to support them. They are able to reach us. You are able to reach us should anything go wrong. We know it's travel. We know things come up. We always try and preemptively, prepare for those things. But sometimes you can't find your guide, or sometimes you can't figure out where you've put your Broadway ticket, and we're there to support. So we always have someone manning our 24-hour phone. Whether you'd like to call us yourself or have your traveler call us, we are there to help. We'd rather know about it in the moment and fix it than for your travelers to have a terrible experience to then come back or have it impact the rest of their trip. Customizing itineraries. So as I mentioned, we really can pull together some quite amazing experiences from, some really niche curated experience that works with our partners that you can't book anywhere else, through those things that, maybe are labeled a little bit more touristy, but those are the iconic must-sees. No trip that we book ever gets booked as the first itinerary proposal that we send out, and very rarely would we have a trip that would run the same. That's not to say that, we want to discourage people from seeing some of those more iconic, maybe touristy areas, but we're going to put it together in a way that is perfect fit for your travelers. And we want to make you guys look like pros. Again, you can hear from my accent, I am not a local, and my team has got me as up to speed as they can. We want to do the same thing for you. We want to put things in a way that you can present it to your travelers. We'll go as far as writing emails in so that you can copy paste them and send them to your traveler. We'll give you the exact questions we need you to ask them when it comes to, you know, what type of hotels that they want, how we maybe talk about mobility. Like if you have someone who is wanting to do bike ride, what that might look like, what types of questions that you need to ask that traveler to make sure that we're getting the right product. But we're here to make you guys look like pros. And so never be embarrassed to ask us questions. Please ask us as many questions as possible, because ultimately that means that your traveler is going to have the best experience, because together we've really worked hard to preemptively make sure that nothing goes wrong, but mostly to make sure that they're seeing everything that they want to and it goes right. And ultimately, we just want to make sure that our clients feel cared for. So the more information that we do have about your travelers that you're able to share with us, the better. You know, there's nothing better than knowing that it's someone's birthday and they really love chocolate cake. Well, we can stop along the way and get our guides to do a special chocolate cake. If we have that information, we can utilize it to make it really feel like a fantastic experience that's being designed specifically by you for your travelers.
All right, so thanks, George. So how to work with us. So first things first, you'll want to get registered with us. You can head to American Stories Travel /passion, or just scan the QR code on the slide. That will take you directly to our travel advisor portal. Once you're there and you log in, you'll have access to all of our DC and cherry blossom itineraries, along with our full catalog of experiences across all 6 of our destinations. That's New York City, DC, Boston, Philadelphia, Charleston, and Savannah again. You'll also find marketing materials, assets, downloadable brochures that you can easily share with your clients. Then when you're ready to book a cherry blossom experience, or any of the DC experiences, or any of our experiences, or any of our destinations, you can either submit a lead directly to me, which my email will be on that last slide. You can email sales@ameristories.com, or just submit it right through the travel advisor portal. As George mentioned, just make sure to put in as much detail as possible: travel dates, number of guests, ages, if it's applicable, must-dos and interests, hotel needs, budget. All of that will help us get started a little bit more quickly to create the proposal most aligned with what you and your clients are looking for. So once the lead is submitted, one of our experienced designers will reach out within 24 to 72 hours to review those details, brainstorm if needed, and work with you to create a personalized proposal. Once everything is finalized and your clients are ready to move forward, confirm the booking and make their payment. And then at that point, your experienced designer will confirm all those services and ensure everything's booked and tailored to your client's preferences, with your input, of course. You'll then receive that final itinerary ready to share. And then from there, your clients head off to enjoy their amazing travel story with access to that 24/7 support line while they're on the ground. Then once they return, you'll receive your commission 30 days after travel. That's so super simple. And just a note on commission, since I'm sure that will come up. We do offer, it's 12% commissions on our tours and transfers, 10% on hotels, and then 5% on attraction and show tickets. And then some of our once-in-a-lifetime experiences, those vary by experience. And with that, we will open it up for Q&A. We're really looking forward to creating those memorable stories for your clients this spring, and of course beyond throughout the year and into the years to come. Again, as Lee mentioned, we'll send out a link to this recording, as well as the link to the travel advisor portal again, so you have that. In the meantime, any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help and support you and partner with you to make things super simple, make you look good, and create those incredible stories. So with that, we will open it up for questions. Thanks again for joining.
All right. Thank you both so much. That was fantastic. We do have a lot of questions, so we'll jump right into those. And since you were last talking about commission, I'll just ask you a follow-up question about that, Audra. Is there ever a scenario where you would work with an advisor with net rates?
I can take that question. As a general rule, we will accept net payment, but we will always quote as gross. And to be completely transparent on the reason for that is that we feel that we have priced our itineraries at a place that puts us in the market in a really good value against, our competitors, our peers, and that type of thing. We have in the past had, net itineraries that have been marked up by advisors, and then there has become value concerns post-trip. So we are happy for you to pay us net if you need to. However, we tend to not send net itineraries out that are client-facing. Now, we are small, we are flexible, we are nimble. If you ever do have a specific reason that you want to do that, please speak with your experienced designer or speak with myself directly, Audra. Also, we can certainly be flexible with that if we need to, but that tends to be the reason why we try not to do that so much.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. And George, one of the things that you mentioned when you were speaking about the process for qualifying and tailoring an experience, you did briefly touch on mobility, and I wondered if we might expand on that just a little bit more about how you address those mobility concerns for clients who may need some special assistance.
It's funny, we actually had a meeting with the sales and operations team on this morning. And I guess my advice is that mobility looks different for everybody. And I think, we do often think about mobility being walking mobility, whether someone is in a wheelchair, might require a walker, long distances, things like steps being challenging or uneven roads. I encourage you to think beyond that. Mobility might be limited sight. Mobility might also be, hard of hearing and things like that. So all of those things, we can prepare for them if we know that those are accommodations that we need to that we need to make. So whether that means that we have to get a vehicle that has a motorized lift, if they have a chair that can't be folded, whether we need just a ramp, whether we can do short distances in walking, if maybe we need to source an ASL interpreter. I'm not sure that we've done it in the past, but I'm pretty certain that we would be able to do it. Thinking about hotels, if you do have someone who is hard of hearing, can we get a room where the fire alarm is set up to be light-based versus sound-based? So there's a lot of different things to take into consideration on mobility and accessibility. I will say that we are not specialists. There are some amazing companies out there that are, but I would say that we are very conscious that we want to be inclusive and make our product and our experiences as open and available to as many people as possible. So again, come tell us the situation. We'll talk through it, and we'll always be super transparent about whether we're the right fit, or maybe we can make a recommendation for a company that might be a better fit. But it's really one of those, how long is a piece of string? So it's sort of hard to bring into a 2-minute comment, but we can talk about it and see what we can do.
I love that. Thank you so much. Let me see. We have, maybe we'll dive into a few more specific questions. Yep. We have one. It starts by saying, couples chasing romance, do you assist with those elements? For instance, photographers or videographers, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. There, we may not have them as a ongoing stable product. However, we have done it in the past. I can think of 2 guides in New York that actually are photographers / guides, and so that's definitely something that is relatively easy to do. So yeah, we can absolutely help with that. It might be a case of we might have a guide and then suggest some an adjacent company to work with to come along with us, or we might have a guide who's able to do it themselves. It really is situational. But yes, especially as I mentioned, cherry blossoms, all of those beautiful photos, that opportunity, that's something that we can absolutely try and help with.
Excellent, thank you. Let's see, next question from Rose. She says, we would be coming in on our own bus. Would we be using that or your transports? I think she's got a group she's looking at for 27. Gotcha. How does that work? I assume you've probably had a scenario like that before.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rose, I love that you are booking now or looking to book for 2027. I again said this to my team this morning for groups. Now is the time. We can do step-on guides. So it really depends. And what that means is we can have our guides join on your vehicle, which often is, frankly, a little bit easier. If you have already rented that vehicle, if you're coming in and departing, chances are that you've costed it out for your entire stay. So we can do step-on guides. Alternatively, if you're wanting to break that group into smaller groups so they could do different things based on their interests, we can also provide vehicles for that. It really depends how your group is wanting to move about the city. So we're very flexible on that, and doing a step-on guide has never been a concern.
Okay. Well, Larissa asked a question about how far in advance can we begin to sell? And obviously we just talked about 2027. So
yeah.
We know it's not too soon for that.
So here's where I would think about it. We, and a lot of the industry, we are currently in the process of finalizing rates for the end of the year. So if you have travelers who are wanting to pretty much travel from 4th of July onwards, book it now, get it locked in. You're locking in your 2025 rates. They are going to shift as suppliers come to the table for end of year product. As you're starting to look for 2027, where we might have challenges is hotels won't have released their rates yet. But as far as touring goes, we can generally get in front of that and lock in 2026 rates if you're starting to book in around October, November for pretty much any time in 2027.
Excellent. Thank you. We have an advisor with us who is, I believe, probably from Canada, or at least has clients in Canada, and she's wondering about whether you are ever able to quote in Canadian dollars.
As a Canadian myself, who is based in Toronto, the question has been raised. It's not something that we have on our roadmap for the moment. We will continue to quote in US dollars, but it is something that we are cognizant to as we open up to a more international market that we will need to review. We just want to make sure that when and if we do it, that we do it in a way that protects both you as an advisor, us as a business, and of course your travelers. So it's not as easy as pulling a trigger and being able to quote in all currencies, but it is on our radar.
Okay, good. Thank you. All righty. Just a few last questions and then we can wrap it up. Are there any upgraded experiences available?
Oh, I mean, how long is a piece of string? Yes, absolutely. You know, there's some really luxury experiences that we can do across all cities. You know, from private dining to, you know, helicopter rides, you know, all sorts of things. It's a little bit of a tricky question to answer off the top of my head, but yes, there is a way to get some really exclusive ideas. And frankly, those come from your travelers. You know, they have an idea that they maybe have seen on TikTok or Instagram, and they say, hey, can you make this happen? We will be the first to help you try. You know, there's some fun stuff that we can do, like we can put up photos and messages on a billboard in Times Square, which is really, you know, a great experience for maybe some of our teenage travelers. We can do private capital tours. There are lots of different things depending on those travelers' interests. But funnily enough, we do often get those suggestions more from our travelers than the other way around.
Oh, I love that. I love that collaboration.
Yeah. Well, it's their trip in the end. We're just here to make it happen.
Right. Absolutely. So come with your dreams. I love it. Okay.
And we'll
last
see what we can do.
Yes. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot on this one. And from Cynthia, just wondering if American Stories Travel has any of their sites set on perhaps national parks in the West or any other destinations.
Do you know what? This is a question we get every single time. And guys, we are right there with you. We want to know what the next destinations are. And as soon as we have those baked out, we will be the first to share. We are really excited to be expanding. We are putting together our roadmap for what that looks like and what cities we are wanting to expand into. But because of the type of company that we are and because our client experience is really so important to us, it's not something that we feel that we can do quickly. We want to make sure that we go in and find the right partners, that we can guarantee that our travelers will have a good experience. And as you guys know, you know, going into the national parks, that isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do. Going down to Nashville, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. To pull it together in something that's going to be cohesive as an entire itinerary. So we are in the process of building out our roadmap for new destinations. I can't share what they're going to be, but we will share with the agent community because we're just as excited as you are once we have those ready to go.
All
A
right.
bit of a politician's answer for you. Sorry, guys.
Okay. I thought I was done with questions, but this one came in and it's good, and I think everyone would like to know. And that is, do you ever assist with elopements? With
You know what? I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. That would be where one of our team might know what we've done in the past. And my team might hate me for this. I see no reason why we couldn't do it. You know, we don't want to do huge events. That's not our niche. There are certainly companies that do that better and more frequently than we do. However, something like an elopement, we can certainly help push people in the right direction, figure out what we can and can't do. You know, I think a big part of having a good partner is knowing when we say no. It would be a bit of a case by case. We'd need to investigate it a little bit more. But I don't see why we couldn't put something together that can at least sit around that experience.
Perfect. Okay. Well, this has been fun. Thank you both so much. I will prepare the follow-up email, and it will have information for our audience members and about what we've talked about today. It will also have a link to the replay. So we'll work on that. But now I'd like to turn it back over to Audra and George, to both of you, for closing comments.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thanks again, everyone. Love all the questions and the engagement. We're really excited to partner with you. And thank you again for taking the time today.
Yeah, and I suppose my closing comments is this is not your only opportunity to learn more about us or to ask questions. You know, Audra is, and go throw her out there, very happy to come into your agency and do one-on-one training with your agency. You will find my profile and my email address online. Feel free to shoot me an email at any time. If I don't know the answer, we'll find out. We're just excited. We're excited to get your travels on the road and work with you guys more. So the more that you can find out about us, everybody wins. So yeah, thank you again for spending time with us.
And my thanks as well. With that, we will wish you all a great day and conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, guys.